On this episode of Locked On Angels, our Halos lose by 1 to the Mets last night, a game that came down to a play at the plate. We've got 5 takeaways, and we're ready to share that with you. I'm Mike, that's John. We're the Super Halo Bros, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to give back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed yet, please subscribe and become a Locked On Everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube and leave a comment. One of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. And this episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by Monarch Money. You can take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year.
Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Mike, you mentioned the ways people can, thank the Super Halo Bros for the Super Halo content. How about the t-shirts? We both happen to be wearing our t-shirts. I got the play ball one. You've got the fly ball, us catching a fly ball, making a play out in the outfield, Taylor Ward style, because he did have that great play last night.
He did.
Unfortunately, it didn't yield a win for the Halos. We'll get into that in just a minute. But we are talking Angels baseball with you 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, every single weekday, however you want to slice it. On today's show, we had an everydayer ask us a really important question about the Angels' approach to the trade deadline. Speaking of trades, how do the Angels players deal with all the trade rumors? We'll talk about that and discuss in segment 2. But first, our 5 takeaways from last night's game as the Angels fall 3-2 to the New York Mets.
Yeah, John, a play at the plate early in the game was the difference. We'll talk about that in a minute. But the first takeaway is the Angels score early again. They get on the board in the top of the second inning on a Jorge Soler home run. 111 miles an hour off the bat, is 12th of the season. They scored again in the top of the 5th. Rengifo hit a double, and then Zach Neto walked, and then Nolan Shawnuel doubled down the right field line. His first of 2 doubles in this game last night. That scored Rengifo. It moved Neto to third, and that was great. It was great to get some early runs. The Angels are notorious for early runs, but they didn't take opportunity to come through. I can't even say it. They didn't take opportunity, and they lost the chances to come through. It really, at the start of the game and all the way through the game, didn't they?
Yeah, and it really cost them in the end, Mike, because it was only a 3-2 outcome, and they had chances, but they didn't come through. In the first inning, after that Shawnuel double and Trout singled, Shawnuel was thrown out at the plate. They sent him from second all the way home, and they left a runner on third in that second inning as well. And they left the bases loaded in the 5th inning. And finally, top of the 9th, with runners at first and second, Trout hits a measly little pop-up out to first base. Man, that first pitch that he took from Ryan Stanek was in his swing happy zone. I think it was a slider or a sweeper that started out, over the right-handed hitter batter's box, and it came in, and man, it was just in his happy zone. And if he would just have been aggressive on that, and they had a conversation about that before Trout came to the plate, because the pitching coach came out, talked to Ryan Stanek, and said, here's how we need to approach him. And I'm sure that there is a scouting report on Mike Trout that, hey, go for strike one, because you can, because he's not going to swing at it, and he's not going to do anything with it. And earlier, he swung through a fastball that was up from Frankie Montas. He swung through a slider later in the game. Somebody on Twitter said Trout needs to get his eyes checked. Does he need glasses? Because it's just stuff down the middle that he's missing on. And I understand there's different speeds and everything, but also I just get so annoyed with the fact that he's not aggressive when he needs to be. And in that situation, you had all the opportunity to be aggressive and swing at that pitch and do something with it. And it's not even like, I can hear the argument already of, well, let him take some pitches. It is a, high intensity moment, high pressure moment for not only the Angels at the plate, but Ryan Stanek on the mound. But you've got to have better pitch recognition. You've got to be able to recognize what's going to land in your happy zone. And that last pitch, or that first pitch from Ryan Stanek, was right there for him to do. Down and in, Mike. Down and in is what we've seen Trout crush over and over and over again. Instead, he gets a fastball in on the hands that he hits off the skinny part of the bat, and he flies out to Pete Alonso, and that's the end of the game. So they had their opportunities, 2 for 7 with runners in scoring position, including Trout having a hit with runners in scoring position. Unfortunately, that was the play at the plate that saw Nolan Schanuel get thrown out.
The third hitter in the order is the one that comes up the most in big opportunities, according to the stats. Yeah. And there's a phrase, the phrase is resting on your laurels, that the Angels are doing and Trout is doing right now with Mike Trout. Like it's what he's done in the past that's keeping him as the third hitter in the lineup.
He's got the 13th highest on base percentage, I think, in the league right now, or he's got some sort of ridiculous number. And his walk rate, maybe that's 13th in the league. I was looking at it just yesterday, and so he's toward the top in walk rate and on base percentage. Flip him and Neto around, for crying out loud.
Yeah, or him and Schanuel. I mean, Schanuel at least makes contact and will at least put the ball in play and do something. And Mike Trout just seems like he's just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting some more. And he's just not the same guy. And so Mr. Analytics, who's our interim manager, you should probably pay attention to that, because you shouldn't have Trout hitting third any longer. He doesn't need to be there. He's going to get on base. So have him higher up in the order and move a good hitter into that third spot. And if it's Neto, I'm all in. I know he's been great as a leadoff, but I want somebody else there. As a fan, I want somebody else there. As a coach, manager, I would want somebody else there.
Neto's been great as a leadoff because he gets hits, and he doesn't do leadoff things. He takes minimal amount of walks, which is fine because he's getting the job done, right? He's getting stuff done. He's coming up behind Rengifo because Rengifo's number 9. I like that order. However, when Neto's best quality is the quality of contact that he's actually making, and you put Nolan Schanuel in front of him at 2, Schanuel at least hits with runners in scoring position. He did that a couple times. And so again, I just think that if Trout is going to be this version of Trout, then bat leadoff. He's done it before. He's bat 1 and 2 for most of his career. He can do it again. And I think the writing is on the wall, because I don't even think you have to make a big trade deal, Mike, for a leadoff guy. You move some guys around in this order,
right?
And you have your leadoff guy in Mike Trout. So just get it done. Do it today.
Third takeaway is Kyle Hendricks had 4 good innings and then 1 really bad inning. He surrendered 4 straight hits with 2 outs in the bottom of the 5th inning. That is the bane of my existence, John. That's nails on a chalkboard. 2 outs, and then you give up 4 straight hits. It led to 3 runs, and it gave the Mets the lead that they would not relinquish. Hendricks entered the 5th, only allowing 1 hit, which was really not a hit because Rengifo and Joe Adell kind of had a miscommunication in the outfield, and he had 1 walk through 4 innings, and then it all went away in a heartbeat. And they said on the TV side, that's been his season. Like, he can be cruising, and then in a snap of a finger, everything falls apart. So he leaves the game down by 1 with a runner at first. Connor Brogdon comes in for relief. He threw 1 pitch, and he got Lindor to fly out to center field. The third time through the order is the Achilles heel for Kyle Hendricks. We've shared these numbers before. Let me share them again. Teams are slashing .667. That's a batting average. .720. That's the on base. And the slugging percentage is 1.222. So they're mashing him. And I credit to the Angels coaching staff. They had the bullpen ready because they had somebody getting up, even though he was cruising. They had somebody up because of what Hendricks has done. But after he got 2 outs, you're thinking, okay, we're doing all right. But then it was a hit, and then a hit, and then a home run, and then a hit. Like, it was just, it fell apart real fast for him.
Yeah. At what point, I have 2 thoughts here. At what point does the conversation about, well, the third time through the order, and let's be clear, this was not quite yet the third time through the order either. It was the second. It was the end of the second time through the order that Hendricks started to fall apart. But at what point does all the conversation about, well, Mike, your third time, the third show you do during the week, your voice is a little tired, so we're not going to have you do a show the third episode. You know what I mean? It's just like where it gets inside your head. And at what point and this goes for all of baseball, because I know the Angels are not the only one to do the third time through the order thing, but it's just like, if we keep having this conversation, I know the stats and the numbers are there and the evidence is not great, But how much of that is the evidence is not great because they can't perform, and how much of that is you're getting inside somebody's head?
It's in his
Crap,
head.
it's a third time through the order. The
Yeah.
second thing is, to avoid this third time through the order nonsense, you have to look at some of the best of the best. Let me give you an example. We've talked about this many times on our show, where Shohei Ohtani would come out and start a game, and you'd see his fastball sitting 97 for the first 5 innings or so. And then when he needed to get an out, when he had 2 strikes on a guy, he'd ramp that thing up to 101 because he had it in his back pocket.
Yeah.
And so these pitchers have to be more dynamic than what they're giving away everything that they have the first time through the order, the second time through the order, right? You're throwing your pitch repertoire, your pitch mix of 3, 4, 5 pitches, and you're showing everything that you have, but you don't pitch backwards. You don't change the way you approach a hitter. It's just, if you're going to be somebody who pitches deep into a game, you have to be more dynamic than to say, well, they saw everything I've thrown through 2 times through the order, so I guess I better go sit down now. I hate that attitude, and I hate that mentality.
Yeah. Fourth takeaway, John, was Ryan Zefferjohn. He was clutch in this game.
Up.
Bottom 7, he got 5 outs.
Yeah.
The first 2 were errors. They were ground balls to Neto and Shonowell that they booted.
What are you doing,
And then
Bart Simpson Butterfingers out there?
it was terrible. That was awful. And then Zefferjon strikes out Nimmo and Lindor, intentionally walks Juan Soto, and then he strikes out Pete Alonso with the bases loaded. All the momentum was in the Angels' corner at that point, but they couldn't do anything with that momentum.
And that's what I was just going to say. It was, you had a momentum shifting part of the game right there when the Mets had the bases loaded. They had free outs out there, and Zefferjon locks it down. That should have been the very next inning. You should have been able to put some runs on the board, and the Angels just did not do that in this one. Fifth takeaway, 7 hits combined for Logan Hoppy and Nolan Shonowell. Hoppy had 3 hits last night, 8 hits in his last 16 at bats. That new stance seems to really be working for him. Then Nolan Shonowell had his first 4-hit game last night, his first career 4-hit game, 2 doubles and 2 singles. Speaking of Logan Hoppy, he said something interesting after Monday night's loss. Mike, what did he say?
He said it's frustrating. We've got to win games in the second half. We're over good looks. We're over good signs. We've got to win games. John, he could just hit copy and paste about last night's game if he's given any sort of interview, because that's what happened last night. And we'll talk a bit more about the team in the next segment. And I've got some thoughts, but I'm over this. Like, well, we fought and we did this and we did that. And dude, you're 100 games in. And if you're going to get anywhere, well, then you need to start getting somewhere. Right.
And Logan Hoppy is not the problem right now.
No.
Right. Him and Shonowell, right? They're not the problem. Even Taylor Ward has not been the problem right now. I don't think he had a hit last night, but the fact is that he's on one of those, guessing right streaks that he goes on. But it's nice that Hoppy can move from talking about his struggles at the plate and behind the dish as a catcher and be able to say, look, we're tired of talking about potential. Yeah. Now it's time to talk about performance. And right now they're not performing. They gave the game away on Monday night. Tuesday night really makes you wish they won on Monday night because, look, at the end of the day, they have their opportunities, and you were a competitive team against the Mets, but you didn't come through when you had to do it, and that's why the Mets were able to win 3-2. That's why the Mets have a $1 billion payroll, and they're also going to the playoffs, on March 27th or whenever the season started, right? And the Angels are not, and they don't have that payroll, but you stayed in the game. You competed, but you couldn't come through when it mattered. And it wasn't O'Hoppy's fault.
Nope.
It wasn't Shonowell's fault.
Nope.
It was a lot of situations like Mike Trout being up the right place at the right time. That's the guy you want.
Yep.
In the bottom of the top of the 9th with 2 outs and 2 on, right?
If you're resting on laurels, if you're resting on his history, sure, absolutely. But that's not the same guy. I don't want him up there. And I think our everydayers would agree. I don't want Mike Trout up there when the game's on the line, because what he did last night, at least he made contact, but that he's struck out most of the time. He doesn't come through in those moments. So get him out of that moment, get him out of that spot. It's time to change some things up.
I already hear he's hitting 353 with runners in scoring position in this season. Yeah, he is. And he didn't come through in that moment. And so the other 65% of the time, He hasn't come through, and that was one of those moments.
Give me a 233 batting average with runners in scoring position, but you've knocked in you got all of those hits when it mattered in the 8th inning and the 9th inning to win games. That's what I want. I don't care. Runners in scoring position is great, but I like 2nd inning, 3rd inning. I know that those runs matter, but I want to see my big guy, my payroll guy. I want to see my Hall of Fame guy. He's got to come through in those moments, and he didn't, and that's just a shame.
Yeah, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, we had an Everydayer ask us a really good question about the trade deadline and what the Halo should do. We're going to share that question and our response in segment 3.
Ever wish managing your money felt a little bit easier? Well, with Monarch Money, it can be easy. Whether you're growing your savings account or you're planning a big purchase, Monarch Money puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. And Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, your investments, and spending all in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. And you can take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Again, that's monarchmoney.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. So how are the players and coaches dealing with all the trade talk of people coming here, maybe leaving the Angels? Ray Montgomery said, we're not going to run from it, but I'm not going to talk about it. The message is the same: to win today's game, just like yesterday. If we win more games, obviously there's a propensity to do more. And that seems to be kind of the main theme of the clubhouse. Kenley Jansen, who's a veteran, been around a long, long time, said you just can't think about it. You got to focus and help your team and be supportive around your teammates. Keep everybody loose. Bring this great energy, this positive energy. Let's take care of one day at a time, and we'll see what's going to happen. Taylor Ward said the same thing. He said, I think we just need to go out there and focus on winning every ball game. I think that's what we've been doing all year. Just keep that going, at least offensively doing what we're doing. It's been awesome to be part of it. And I think as long as the boys continue to do what they're doing and pass the baton, I think we'll be in a good spot. He also added that I have my inner circle that shoots me stuff that they see and hear, but I want to stay here. I want to win with this group. I think it'd be the cherry on top of getting to the playoffs and winning with this group. So, do the players think it's a good idea for this team to buy or sell? What do you say, Mike?
No, according to Mike Trout, he said there's hope that this team can do so much more. We've seen what we're capable of. We've got some great stretches in the last few weeks. You've seen us win 8 in a row. We've got to get off to a really hot start. And in the second half, we did that. And we're doing the little things right. We're playing solid defense. When we have runners on base, we're doing our job. This was obviously before last night, right? Mm-hmm. And we've mentioned what Kenley Jansen said about coming to the Angels and wanting them to win. He shared that same sentiment recently. He said, I came here with one goal in mind, to try to help this organization turn it around to be a winning organization. We've got a great group of guys here. I think that we can do it. I think we can sneak into the wild card. You never know what happens after that. So we've just got to keep this energy going every single day. But John, can they do that? That's the big question.
Yeah, they're still under 500. They're 3 games under 500. We're about a week away from the deadline, a week from tomorrow. Travis d'Arnaud said there's still time left to do something crazy. I've been a part of a team that was under 500 at the trade deadline, won the World Series, so anything can happen. And he's referring to the 2021 Atlanta Braves. Remember, he was part of that team and had a huge playoff run. They were 51-54, 5 games back in the National League East at the deadline in 2021. They went 37-19 over the final 2 months to finish 88-73. They won the division by 6.5 games. And the Braves were really aggressive at the deadline. They lost Ronald Acuna Jr. to a season-ending knee injury. Remember that one. But then they just said, give us all the outfielders. We'll what do they say? We'll create them in the aggregate, like on Moneyball. They got Adam Duvall, Jock Peterson, Eddie Rosario, and Jorge Soler. All of those guys made really good contributions down the stretch in October. So could this Angels team be 2 or 3 players away from making a similar run. Well, Darno said, I think we have what it takes now. I mean, we're in every game. We've beaten good teams. Kyle Hendricks agreed with that. He said, we know we have everything we need in the clubhouse. When we play our brand of baseball, play fundamentally sound and don't make mistakes, we can beat anybody. We've seen that and we've proven that. So what does all this, we can do this talk, do for you as a fan of this team? Mike, give me your answer.
Then do it. I'm tired of this.
Just do
it. Sis boom ba. Like, I'm tired of that. I'm so tired of that. Like, you guys, last night was a perfect example of that. And the night before, like, then do it. Then freaking do it. Because we talk all the time about, I want to get that. I want to get Mike Trout to playoffs, and I want to do this, and I want this organization to win. Then freaking do it. And you're not doing it. And that's the problem. And then they're talking about being fundamentally sound. And I love Neto and I love Shonowell, but both of those guys couldn't glove the ball last night. And it didn't cost them. It didn't cost them, right? But this is the state of the team, is that they're not going too far ahead and they're not going too far behind. They're just kind of in that milky middle, right?
They're 500, Mike. I mean, they're under 500 right now, but their ceiling, their cement ceiling that they are hitting their heads against is 500. That's who they are.
And maybe I cursed them because I said I think that they're a 500 team, right? And that's the thing. I love that they are close to 500 because they've really improved year over year. So looking at it from 25 miles an hour at 5 miles away, right? Like, okay, yeah, they've really improved. But what gets really frustrating is when the narrative out of the organization is we're gonna compete, right? And then all the players are like, yeah, we're gonna compete. We got it right here. Then do it. Kyle Hendricks, you have all the guys, do it. Then you got to get through the 5th inning, bro. You can't blow up with 2 outs. You can't do that, right? Yeah. And I know I'm a nerd with a podcast. I've never thrown a pitch. I get it. But that's why I have a podcast, and that's why you're on the mound. You have to get through that. You're the guy that won the World Series in 2016. You're the guy that's supposed to know how to pitch and be the professor. So freaking do that, right? Ryan Zefferjohn was the only pitcher last night that really clutched up and did what was necessary, and that didn't do anything for the bats at all last night. So I'm tired of this. We can do it. Yeah. Look at us. Yeah. I'm tired of it. Like, then freaking do it, right? And if they won last night, my narrative would still be the same because you have the Mariners and you have the Rangers coming up. So you're not out of the woods yet. Now, if they win today, they end this road trip at 500, which is fine, right? But Logan said it in the first segment after Monday's game. He said, we can't be like, yay, we were in it. Yay, we were close, right? That's good for March and April, maybe even May. But you're in July, bro. And this team is in July. And this is just this narrative. I hate I'm going to talk about it, but not be about it. Show me that you're going to be about it. I need all of you to come through. And Mike Trout, you got to lead this team or you got to be moved. You got to be moved in that lineup. Something's got to happen because I'm tired of just having him sit there and be this big bat that never comes through.
Yeah. And I get tired of these narratives about, well, the Braves, they were 51-54 and they were just 5 games back. And look what they did, right? Yeah. It's the same narrative as the Tigers last year.
Yep.
Maybe we can sell and still compete. Yeah. But then you would have guys like Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson, all the guys that the Tigers needed to click and get right and be the guys that they drafted, be the guys that they expected them to be, and they hadn't quite measured up to that yet. That's what happened. It was like someone waved a magic wand, and then I think I've said this before, Mike, Logan Hoppy becomes, the world's greatest catcher behind the dish. Nolan Shonowell hits 380 the rest of the way. Mike Trout delivers in the clutch. That's what would have to happen to have a Tigers type of season. That's not going to happen when it comes to, you know what? You got to play all the games. Sure, I get that. And this Braves narrative of, hey, you look where they were and the Angels are kind of in a similar position. Well, then who are you going to add? You're going to add 5 different guys and where are you going to put them? Because at this point, I'm not seeing it. Because the guys who are talking about this, like Travis d'Arnaud and Kyle Hendricks is out of my rotation if I add to this team, right?
Right. Yeah.
I'm going to get a starting pitcher. Sorry, Kyle, you're going to the bullpen, which he'd be willing to do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I just think, okay, you need to add 5 people or whatever it is to help you get to the home stretch and be like the Braves. Look, if we lost our Ronald Acuna Jr., which right now I think would be like Zach Neto, or, again, we've dealt with Mike Trout being out the last 5 years, then we'd probably call it a season. Oh, all right, that's it, and the Braves didn't do that. And so I just think it's a whole different mentality. It's a whole different organizational philosophy. And I don't necessarily think that the Angels are in a position to look at this whole thing and think, yeah, we can do what the Braves did. And because the front office deludes themselves into thinking that, hey, we're gonna make the playoffs and we're gonna make a run and we're gonna do this and we have to be competitive every year. And you know where that comes from? It comes from Artie Moreno trying to make, dollar over dollar, fist over fist, right? And get 1 penny in the green over what you spent. And that's just not how baseball works. And I don't think that the front office has the right mindset to achieve something like the Braves did.
Having a reliable business line is so important, and that's why you need OpenPhone for your business. They're the #1 business phone system. They're going to help you streamline and scale customer communication, all from an app on your phone or maybe even on your computer. No more juggling 2 phones. One's a business phone, one's a personal phone. OpenPhone is solving that problem. Plus, your whole team has access to all of the contacts to this app, and they can respond to customers because they're going to know who the customers are and they're going to know what the customers want. And then there's this AI agent that OpenPhone has. It handles all of the after-hour calls. It answers commonly asked questions, and it captures all the leads so that you never miss a customer again. OpenPhone is offering our everydayers of Locked On Angels 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnMLB. Again, that's openphone.com/LockedOnMLB. And if you have an existing number, they're going to port that over at no extra charge. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers.
We had a really great question, and this came from YouTube. And so if you haven't done so before, come on over to YouTube and find the show from the day that you're listening or even watching, because I know that we're on different apps on the TV and whatnot. And so if you're not a regular YouTube viewer and you're listening on the podcast platform or you're watching on one of those apps, come on over to YouTube and get in the comment section, because we always have really great conversation. In fact, Xavier Woods from The New Day, is that who it is?
That's what I thought it was at first.
New Day rocks, baby. He asked this question of us. Why is the standard that we have to sell our quality players for farm guys? The goal is to improve the MLB team. The farm system is just a tool to make that happen. How far down the road do we kick the can of trying to win? Doesn't playing meaningful games count towards growing as an organization? Should the Bulls have sold Jordan in 1988 because they couldn't beat the Pistons? Mike, should the Bulls have sold Jordan in 1988? No, right.
No, they shouldn't have, and they didn't, of course. But here's my response to Xavier. Let me talk about the Bulls for just a moment. They didn't trade Michael Jordan because they were building around Michael Jordan. Mm-hmm. But you know who they did trade? Charles Oakley. And they got Bill Cartwright, and Bill Cartwright was a key piece to the first three-peat that Michael Jordan had with the Bulls before he retired, then came back and won 3 more. I'm a huge Bulls fan. And so that's what they did. So I get what you're saying here. Here's what you would do with the Angels. They're not going to trade Neto. They're not going to trade Shonowell. They're not going to trade Hoppy. But what they are going to trade are the pieces of the team that are like expiring contracts or are people that they know aren't going to be with this team in the future, like they did with Carlos Estevez last year. They traded him and they got 2 really good pieces, because the goal is that you would potentially be better in 2026. Now, Jeff Fletcher had a debate on Twitter with somebody that made a comment about, like, you got to trade Taylor Ward and get a really good piece. And Fletch said, but you still have him under contract next year, so you have to consider who's going to play left field and who's going to bring that offense. And he makes a point, because Taylor's probably going to make between $10 to $15 million next year. You're not going to be able to sign a free agent outfielder for that cost. And Matthew Lugo's probably not ready or maybe even capable at this point of producing what Taylor Ward is producing. And so Fletch brings up a good point. Now, the pushback to that is, well, you're getting really good pieces and you're replenishing your minor league systems. so that these players can come up and be on your team, not just for 26, but for 27. And really, some fans are saying 27 is probably the season that we should be looking to. You and I have both said 2026 is probably the season that you should be looking to, right? But that all depends on what they do in the next few weeks. So to answer your question, Xavier, they're not selling everything to good teams to just get pieces back and kicking the can down the road. They would sell, and then they would get pieces that would potentially help them to be winners next season, if not next season, in 2027.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, is the kinds of prospects you get back, like a George Clausen or Sam Aldegheri, take time to develop. And so at this point, they're not quite ready to be major league starters right now. And that kind of is, I mean, it's not an issue because you're certainly going to be able to use them, like you said, maybe 26, probably 27. But I think the Angels issue and what a lot of, maybe kind of the heart of this question from Xavier is like, how can they be competitive right now? What are they going to do to be competitive right now? And the answer to that is, look, I know people want to trade Tyler Anderson, but you're probably going to get a single A starting pitcher for Tyler Anderson right now, because that's kind of the going rate for a pitcher of Anderson's quality. If you were to trade Taylor Ward, yeah, you might get some guys close to MLB ready. But the problem is, if you look around the league and you look at who's MLB ready, a lot of those guys are on the Marlins, who they're trying to build something. The Orioles have guys that are positionally blocked, that like Kobe Mayo, right? He could be somebody that could really help them out, but they don't have the room for it. Now they're going to be sellers, so they're not in the market for a Taylor Ward. Maybe the Padres have some guys that could be MLB ready, but the truth is, you kind of go back to that argument of, how do you recreate Taylor Ward in the aggregate? Well, you're going to have to figure out a way to do that if you decide to sell him. And the thing about Ward is right now, he's the most valuable that he's ever been. He's got a year and a half left on his contract. He's on a hot streak right now. Look, everybody was inquiring about him last year, and then he stunk right up until the trade deadline. And so everybody kind of cooled off on him. Well, this time he's having a great run here, especially since coming back from the All-Star break, right? And we're a week away from the trade deadline. So when you say, like, why do we have to sell our quality players? Because of the value you're going to get back. There's no better time than now to sell Taylor Ward. And I hear you about, next year, but that's also, I don't know, assuming that he's going to do this again next year. A year older. Another year of kind of putting up with his shenanigans in the outfield. I get that he had a great play and threw out Juan Soto last night, which was awesome. More of that, please. Right. But I think if you zoom out, the problem with selling now and trading away the quality pieces that you have that are on expiring deals, it's the right thing to do, but it's not the quickest way to improve your major league ball club. And Mike, I think we're kind of having the same conversation we did with, hey, we got to surround Trout with talent because we got to get him to the playoffs. And I'm talking 10 years ago when we were having this conversation. Now we're kind of back to that. We got to surround Neto and Hoppy and Shonowell with talent so that we can get them into the playoffs. Because right now they have talent around them, right? Like there's guys doing things, but if you're going to build around them, the quickest route is more. You need more. And so, that kind of goes back to the buying conversation. Like, are you going to buy for just this season and see if you can make it? Or are you going to try to get some guys that are near MLB ready to make it happen?
We haven't thought that far ahead.
We haven't thought that far ahead. The Angels like to say, we haven't thought that far ahead. And Xavier, at the end of the day, I think that's the problem. The Angels have not thought that far ahead. They have not thought about their future and, in 2019 going, hey, you know what? If we did this right now, we could be pretty good in 2021. And then they would have been very good. But they didn't do that, and they continue to not do that. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do or don't do as this week and the trade deadline approach.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Angels on YouTube so you don't miss any of the great Angel content that we have for you. That includes the best postcast in the biz for the Angels. That's with Gavin Carlson. He's live after every final out, every game, win or lose. Get all the best Angel content right here on the Locked On Angels show and the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.
Hey, give us a follow at Locked On Angels. That's us, Mike. Locked On Angels on Twitter, and you can also connect with Mike and I at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. I had to take a dig. Come on. What do we have on deck for Thursday's show, Mike?
You said something about the voice, and then my voice goes, okay, I'm going to stop working. So, hey, tomorrow, Locked On Angels, we're going to talk about when will Trout be back in the outfield. He gave an answer, and we're going to tell you about that answer tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
All right, looking forward to that conversation. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here with us, everybody, and we'll see you back here on Thursday.
Shout out to Landon, who sang the national anthem at Pirate Stadium last night. He's an everydayer. Love that guy. Knocked it out.